Hi, I'm John Graham, and welcome to our 6th DV on predator trapping. And we're calling it Catching Coyotes Plain and Simple. And the title is basically what the video is about. It's not full of fluff, it's not full of staged events. Everything here is on actual trapline footage. It took a couple years to make this DVD showing different segments and different things of what we do. And we also call it the Thinking Man's Guide to Trapping and Snaring Coyotes. And in this DVD, you're going to see foothold traps, and you're also going to see the use of snares, how to effectively and easily catch coyotes. Okay, you're on record, and we're in the pickup, and it's windy. And okay, now shut it off and try. And like any disposable stake on the market, the weak link has always been, in my opinion and a lot of other people's opinion, is the type of driver available. And I've literally gone through probably a dozen different drivers in the last few years and had people send me some stuff. And not all of them are some of the high quality ones you see advertised on the, in some of the trapping forums and stuff. There's some real high quality stuff out there, no doubt. I haven't tried them all by any means. But a friend of mine is a machinist and a welder in Minnesota, and him and I sat down a few years ago and designed a new driver. We call them the Montana line driver, kind of a catchy name we come up with a good solid handle, gussets on it, a tool steel shaft. We make them in two different kinds to fit what I use. Basically, this has got the slots for the wolf fang. We also sell one for the super stake, the bullet stake like the Fox Hollow type we also use. These wolf fangs I think retail for around $44 or $45 a hundred. You can make them with your own, or you can buy them put up like these. Somebody else, lots of people sell them. But the key is, with all this stuff, is to have something that'll last. And to be honest with you, I bought a lot of drivers that had a nut on top and they used different things, and those broke over time. We designed these with a solid handle, and to be honest with you, this is pounding a lot of stakes, and it's just getting cupped out on top here. And when I get done here, maybe through the season, we'll have to put a couple beads of weld down the top to kind of reinforce it and build it back up, or maybe put a big puddle of weld right there. And I expect that's all I'm going to have to do to it. We had to precision mill the ends of the driver to fit the wolf fang stake. And this particular driver won't fit some of the other variations because they, in my opinion, they made the slot too small. So what I'm saying is you have to have a driver compatible and slide on real nice to your point. And like anything else, you have to have take a little bit of precautions and make sure it's maintained. Make sure that there's no burrs on the end or anything else, and everything's still nice and sharp, so the point goes on. And otherwise, if you drive it in the ground and there's a burr or something, or a place where there's been a notch, drove in through a rock or whatever, and you get some bad lumps on or humps in it, it might catch on the driver, and it won't come out. So you got to maintain it, just like oiling your gun or cleaning anything else off, or your fishing pole or whatever. You got to maintain this stuff, because you got to remember this is going right in the ground. This is probably going in the ground about 16 inches, and who knows what it's going to encounter down there. So what I'm telling you is every 2 or 3 stakes, kind of look it over. I carry a file right in my bag in my pickup. I always have one in my pocket or at my shop. Take my grinder out once in a while, or take it to the bench grinder and kind of on the wire wheel, just kind of hone it up a little bit and keep it well maintained, and it'll last you a long time. And I think, in honesty, of all the ones I've seen in the market nowadays, I think the wolf fang with this combination of Montana line driver is the best I've seen. You ready? Okay, the first thing I do is just to make sure that I'm going to be able to get an earth anchor in here or a stake, I try to stake the trap down first, because you wouldn't want to use waxed dirt here and waste a bunch of time making this trap bed and then find out you can't get a stake in. So give me about 10 seconds here and I'll get this stake in place. Okay, I always drive it in below ground level, 3 or 4 inches if I can, just to make sure that when I pull up on it, let's say it pulls up just a little bit, maybe a little dirt got caught in that slot. I always drive it in plenty, and then also when I pull up on the trap, it's going to set that point in the ground. It gives a few inches to do that usually. So usually my swivel is still below ground level, and that's kind of important. And I made these drivers fairly long so you can put your hammer underneath it to achieve pulling them out easier. I see a few on the market that are pretty short in my opinion, and what I do is usually twist a little bit, hit this a couple times, pull back out just like that. And by doing that with a hammer, saves you getting down there and trying to pull up and down a reef up and down. So I made them just a little bit longer, just through experience. And the next thing I do is pull up on it, make sure it's set, which it is. Cover the hole back up here, that's fine. Now this particular place, we're getting on in the season, a little bad weather. This is wax dirt, and there's all kinds of different combinations of soil and wax ratios and stuff. I'll just say here in Wyoming, I'm using a shaly type dirt, and I'll show you here. This has got 3/4 of a pound of wax to a gallon of dirt. Makes it pretty darn bulletproof as far as weather. And I'm not going to get into making wax dirt too much, although I will say right now that I've had a lot of experience with it, and I've talked to a lot of people with a lot of experience with it, and I'm hearing more and more complaints and more problems with people using wax dirt that was heated or made with a cement mixer and maybe a propane torch in front of it. The smell factor seems to be affecting coyote trappers more and more. Now, if you're in a high population of coyotes and that kind of stuff doesn't usually, smell, or maybe they're not that kind of spooky coyotes, or you have enough to work with, you might not have to worry about, but some of us do. So we're making more and more solar power type stuff now, making it with the sun and doing it during the middle of summer. Okay, usually what I do is put in about 1/4 or a 1/2 inch of the wax dirt in the bottom of the bed, and then I take my hammer and I really pound it in there, especially in that cross piece. And that makes a really waterproof barrier, in my opinion, of all that wax dirt just pounded in there like that. And all I gotta do is tap it in, and when you get done, your trap bed will be perfectly shaped still, but have that extra little bit of wax dirt on the bottom of the bed that keeps that dirt from leaching out. And you don't have to overdo this. This takes a few seconds, but I do think in the long run that does pay off. Okay. Trap is a number 3 Montana dogless, like you've seen elsewhere in the video. I don't think it's any secret that I own the Montana Trap Company. Real sold on these traps. This version here is just modified with a base plate and a D-ring. I see a friend of mine made some of these for me, used a little different swivel as a tryout. Works fine. It's laminated, but it's not offset. I'm not 100% sold on offset traps. In this particular trap, I run different versions, trying different things out, and this is fine. This has got about 24 inches of chain rather than my standard 18, and he also installed a stop shock spring for me to try, which in all honesty, I can't say anything really wrong with them, except for in a lot of mud and frozen conditions. I see where they get all mudded up at times. I do like them for one thing and nothing else. They're easy to bed the free jaw of the trap on, which I'll show you here in a second. But this is my trap of choice right here. I run a lot of this type of stuff, and by now you've probably noticed this is just 2-coiled. And I really honestly think a lot of people overdo it and go to 4-coil right off the bat. They increase their pan tension a lot, which might be good if you're in like a high rabbit area or a lot of rodents or something. But for me, just standard stock coyote trapping, I can get by with 2-coil traps fairly easy and have virtually no problem with it. I still use a screen pan cover. I know other places in the video you'll see I just use a screen with no notch. This one I took the extra 3 seconds and cut a notch in it about maybe 1 or 1.25 inches deep on this one. And I just simply pull the free jaw up and tuck the screen under the jaw. So when I put it in the ground, this screen here and this tip of the screen and here will be under the jaws. Just a little more weatherproof type of deal. It won't be touching the ground. Plus with all that nice wax dirt, and you can just use dry dirt if you want. That'll make that more weatherproof, you know, low maintenance. That's what I always strive for, is less maintenance in all my coyote trapping. And this is just a great combination. With that screen here again, basically anything inside the jaw of the traps, the trap, the coyote or whatever, bobcat, fox, anything that steps in that jaw will make the trap go off usually, because anywhere they step, that increased pan size with that stiff steel screen will increase it. And this has been something that's been going on for basically 35, 40 years with this dogless type trap that just has not been improved on, in my opinion. One of the items I use more and more in conjunction with bones at flat sets is these little honey lure holders. And there's lots of variations. Guys are making them with felt, they're making them with wool, they're making them all kinds of stuff. These are some a friend of mine's been making for years. He makes them for us too. I love them. And just so you know, basically the head of that right there is what's going to be sticking out of the ground. And that's a simulated M44, a sodium cyanide gun head that we use for predator control purposes, mainly here in the West, I think. That's simulating that. And what the deal is with that, it's also a place to hold lure, but it's also a sight attractor for the coyote to want to lick and grab and actually pull that out of the ground. And by using this kind of stuff, and you can use bones too, no problem, it actually makes the animal, the coyote, canine, coyote or fox, stand there, maybe move their foot around a little bit more, increase those catches, but also you can dictate where they're going to have to step more. I want them to focus in on this and say, I'm going to pull that out of the ground. We're going to put an attractive lure on here that's made specifically for this type of stuff. And what we're trying to do is capitalize on that grab and pull response. We don't want them to roll on this. We don't want them to come up and pee on it. We don't want them to come up and which they do at times, to be honest with you, but we don't want them to come up and smell it from 3 foot away and satisfy their curiosity. We want to actually make them walk into here and try to grab this, just like we do any other flat set. By using what we're doing here right now with this set, with this setback, and having these natural guides right here in this back end, we're just making the thing even that much more effective. We're getting the best of both worlds of a flat set they're going to want to grab, and a walkthrough and a setback. We're going to add in a few other things to make this super attractive, and I think you're going to see one of the best, probably the best coyote sets I've ever made or ever used, this type of set over the years, and you're capitalizing on several different aspects of it. Are you on? Okay, sorry about that, Eric. Okay, now in cold weather, frozen ground, wet conditions, you can take a punch and punch a hole in right here, a couple 3 or 4 inches deep for a pilot hole. But since it's still early enough in the year, we have snow, but it's not frozen ground, I simply just take my hammer and drive this in the ground, flush, and I leave a little bit of this grass around here. I want them to have to find that. They're going to smell it. I want that in the ground just like that. You can tilt it out a little bit towards the trap if you want to make it even more attractive for them to want to come in and grab it. And right now we're back about 10, 12 inches. But what I'm doing is, and we're going to illustrate this a little more, is I'm using the backing they're not going to want to walk on. This sharp stuff out here they're not going to want to walk on very bad. And this tall grass out here, they're not going to fight that. To get to this attractor we're going to put on here, this lure, they're going to be stepping right out here in front. Okay, now that we know the focal point is going to be secured in place, and when I say secured, it's going to be something they're not going to be able to just walk up and take off with easily, because they're going to have to actually pull it out of the ground. It's not going to get moved by a rodent or a bird or anything else coming to grab it out of there. It is solid, and that's important. Any kind of canine or cat trapping, in my opinion, anything you put at a set should be solid and stationary. But now that we know that's going to be there, we can do the final tweaking and where we're going to put our trap. And this trap here, when I put it in the ground, in the bed, got a little bit of wet dirt over it, so I'm going to take the extra few seconds and rebed it here a little bit. And this dirt has been sifted already, so I'm not going to worry about it. I carry mine in another Badlands bag that I use, just an old canvas bag I use. And it takes about a half a gallon to maybe 3/4 of a gallon per set. I just make sure the whole bed's lined with it, the whole trap. And what I've gone to over the years is another handy tool. I just want to take a second and show you. And believe me, this is not a gimmick. This is a handy tool. If you guys ever heard of Wiley Carroll in Nevada, famous old coyote and cat and lion hunter and stuff, trapper. He gave some of these, or one of these, to a friend of mine named Bill Ilchick of Wild West Bobcats fame, video, book. And Bill gave me one of these a few years ago, and man, I'll tell you what, I've been using it. The second he handed me this tool at a convention, I knew exactly what it was for. And I could just see how many uses you could get out of this being a coyote trapper or a cat trapper or whatever. And basically it's a set finisher, we call them. I call them a set leveler. You can make scratch marks, I'll show you. You can make a little divot to put your dropping in if you're using droppings at a set. But the main thing I use it for is leveling off my set rather than taking my glove and swooping it off. And about every day when I'm setting lots of traps, I'm catching my hand at least once or twice. Not a lot, but once in a while I do. And by using something like this, I can do several things at one time with it. It's so simple, you wonder why you didn't think of it yourself. And we call them set finishers. And basically what I do is I just put it underneath the dirt, move everything out with that, smooth it all out where you want everything. Everything is nice and level. And let's say you didn't have this dirt sifted, I could actually go under the ground and push them rocks out ahead of it, and get that fine rocks out of there. Any big lumps, flick that out of there, get that out without having to actually touch anything. Now this particular set, I've still got this dirt here. I'll just pitch that behind me. And we're going to take this set finisher to blend this stuff in a little better than sitting here with my hand or my glove. Now this particular dirt, this shale that I'm using, doesn't match, so go with this sandy soil. And I would never do this late in the season because this top dressing is the stuff that usually freezes. But we're early enough in the season here, I'm just going to use this to kind of blend this in a little bit. And as the day goes on, this will kind of get a little age to it, a little bit of older look to it where a coyote's not going to shy from that anyway. But this little set finisher will do that. And one of the things I really liked about it when I first started using them, throughout the years of coyote trapping and fox trapping, a lot of times you come up and you'll notice where a canine has avoided a set maybe. A lot of times they don't. If I'm sure if a piece of chain, you probably catch a lot of them with a one jaw kind of showing, who knows. But a lot of times I come up and see a muddy footprint over here to the side, and there's part of my chain or maybe part of your pant or your screen cover exposed because of the weather or whatever. And I used to grab the trap out of there and reset it, and I don't anymore. Elsewhere I've showed just flicking dirt, but now I use this little tool to come over here and just scrape up enough stuff to utilize to cover them bare spots up and just less contact with it and nice smooth finish. I am personally not a big fan or advocate of step down sets, and I'm not a fan or advocate of using trench sets. I've always figured I wanted my approach to be level and easy to maintain, and I've found over the years that stuff with too big a recess, too big a drop down just collected moisture, and I always figured that coyote trapping was a long-term effort, so I want everything flush across here, which will, in my opinion, last longer and stay more effective, less you have to walk over to this set to maintain it. I can't say enough about little tools like this. I don't consider it a gimmick at all, and it actually I know has made life a lot easier for me setting a lot of traps at times. Now one thing you can do, I'm going to start over again. Okay, I'm starting over again right now. One thing you can do with the point of this is to make some fake kicks, like a dominant coyote, and believe me, it doesn't have to be a female or a male to do this. I've watched my female dog make kicks like that. Just kind of scratch it up, place to put a little pea right there, maybe on this grass or whatever. Make those kick marks, make them think another coyote's been there. Super attractive to bobcats also. I'm using more and more droppings every year too. With our rodent numbers being way down, I don't have any problems using a dropping at a set once in a while. It used to be when I used droppings around here, they were gone the first night. And now I just take my little set finisher here and make a little recess spot to put a dropping. And you can't say enough good about stuff like that. I carry droppings, I find them, I pick them up, carry them in Ziploc bags. I mean, I let my coyote dogs run ahead of us sometimes on little 2-track roads through pastures and stuff just to get them out and get some exercise. We use them for calling all summer, denning and stuff. They don't get a lot of exercise in the fall all the time. And it's funny when these dogs are running down these trails ahead of us, maybe 50 yards or so, and they got shock collars and stuff. They're trained, they're not going to get in trouble. All of a sudden they just turn a hard 90 degrees and almost point just one single dropping 2 foot off the road. So I pack all these droppings around and utilize them, and use them at sets, places like this. So now, just to recap what I've done here, I've got a reset, a set back, reset back in there, recessed I guess the word is, back into this obstructive grass and unobtainable, unapproachable type place. We're going to put a lure on there. There's various kinds you can use that they're going to want to lick or grab. The trap set out here far enough to utilize or take advantage of this outside blocking on the edges. They're going to come out through here. We got a dropping right here. We got the tall grass back in here, and we just captured the best of all the worlds. We got their intrigue factor, their smell factor, the factor they're going to want to investigate where another coyote's been, and our landing spot is right here, this nice level spot that we have set with a dogless trap, a screen, and waxed dirt. I cannot tell you of a more effective coyote set than that right there. And this is held in place. The dropping is, we'll put a little gland there here and there. You got 2 smells. Everything's natural. We're at a good location that's caught coyotes before. Some residual smell factor here. And I'm just saying, if I had 1,000 places like this, I'd be a happy camper. And this is the kind of set that has proven effective for me over the years, over and over and over again. And if we get a little bit more snow tonight, I'll tell you what, being on the upwind side of a trench like this, if this was over here, that'll catch a little bit of snow that would eventually end up on top of your trap. And that's important because that's the stuff that becomes melted. You can come out here about a foot, maybe 10 inches on the upwind side of your trap. Just make a few little trench marks like that. Any drifting snow will catch in there or right up against this berm, and that keeps the snow off your pattern. And that's the kind of stuff on days like today when you're driving through checking and your pattern looks dry, but that kind of stuff will end up on top of your trap at times. So a few little things like this, they like to see this scratch mark. They're not afraid of it by any means. More of this kind of stuff just means another coyote's been there, a fox, maybe a bobcat. I mean, you can use a bobcat drop in here and make this even more effective. This happens to be an old dried out coyote dropping I picked up. But by having a couple different smells, they think another animal's been there. They got the visual of this, they got the visual of over here, they got a dropping there, and like I say, this is just super deadly. Let's give it a try, see if this sound's working or not. Okay, I'm going to take a few minutes to show a little bit of variation for spacing and trap placement that'll cut down a lot of misses, in addition to using a walkthrough, and I call it a setback set. Now, don't confuse that with, some guys are going to think, well, a setback means a remake or whatever. That's not what I mean. I mean a setback where your focal point or your place where you're going to put your lure or whatever is set back into something, and we're going to utilize the natural blocking that's already there and show where our trap placement, I'll show you where your trap placement is going to be. And you can utilize this in grass hummocks like in Michigan, or into different kinds of thorny bushes somewhere else, yucca plants, cactus, whatever. But the main thing is, and I'll show you how to utilize it to your benefit, is to show where you'll cut down misses. You'll actually dictate their approach by using natural stuff. And after you get an eye for it, you'll start looking at your locations a little different. Now, I don't use these at all my sets, but I do use a fairly high percentage of them. And what it'll pick up is some of them coyotes that won't work your set right, and they'll come up within a foot or two of it sometimes, and they'll smell stuff, or they'll avoid it a little bit off to the side. And by picking these places like this, you'll actually increase your catch with really minimal of effort. Now, I picked this spot here. Let's start that over, just keep it rolling. Now, I picked this spot here for various reasons. I like to dig back into root systems like this, grassy places like that, but also because right out in front I have this place, this nice bare spot, which is going to be really, really easy to blend back into natural, okay? So we're going to kind of blend this set back in. And a spot like this has outside blocking on the sides, or side blockings we'll call them, and our focal point is going to be a dirt hole way back into here. The trap's actually going to be out here probably 12 to 16 inches in front of the actual set. You don't have to have it right tight up to your attractor, or like the old 10 and 2 inches, and guys are saying 10 inches back, all that. This kind of eliminates all that, I call it guesswork, or a way to let an animal approach a set and not get caught. I like to have my holes way back into something, like way back here in this kind of instance. And I would put it way back in like this, dig out this dirt, dig back this hole like this. Your dirt hole is going to be back there, you're going to have a little bit of dirt pulled out in front, but your trap is going to be blended way out here in front, okay? And like I say, we're utilizing this natural blocking here. We'll put an outside blocking there. It's a nice level, fast approach, effective way to catch coyotes. You just turn it on. Another variation of that is going to be, of course, a T-bone. I'll knock that knob off the end. We'll drive the T-bone way back in here, put some bait on it, have this pulled out, a little bit of dirt here, and there again, we'll be blending our trap in right here out in front. This is where our trap's going to be. We'll blend this all in, camouflage it in good. Coyote will approach this with this here, blocking them into the front. Got a block here, we got some grass here. We're out here almost 1.5 feet away from the attractor. Very effective. By doing stuff like this, like I say, you'll catch some of them coyotes that are used to coming in, maybe peeing in the bush there, stepping way back. For various reasons, they're naturally a little bit shy, but by having a blended in trap right out here in front, you'll pick that up. And I just call it reset, or recessing, or like what I call it, setback. It's set back a long ways from the trap. And this works good in little mound sets out in front. You can put your trap there, get a mound out here, and maybe you dig into a big anthill back into this dirt, into this brush or whatever, your trap set out here. But the main thing is you're letting the natural blocking already there dictate where the coyote's going to step. That's the main thing, okay? Okay, we're going to put another set. Okay, you just started it? Okay, okay. Okay, we're going to put a set in over here about 15 foot away. There's some old bones and stuff here. And 4 or 5 years ago, a cow died in this location. I came in here in the fall, and the cow was just basically hiding bones by that time. And over time, coyotes have drugged the bones away, and even the skull's gone now and stuff like that. But there's still some residual value, because historically coyotes have visited this spot and peed, and there's poop around here, droppings scattered around. There was a little bit of snow on this morning. We haven't really looked around that much, but we're going to find a place over here in one of these grassy spots to put in another set. Actually be our first set here, and I'll come back and set this. And I'm going to show you a place over here where I've caught them before. There's several old circles over here. There's some old residual value there, some old smell. But all these old bones, there's no meat here. We're not setting in a place with any danger of catching, you know, something that shouldn't be caught, a raptor or whatever. You don't want to set around big carcasses and stuff when you're trapping coyotes, in my opinion. but we're going to go over here about 15-20 feet and show you an actual set. Okay, I came over here and found a spot to make another setback type set. It's probably a good 10-12 inches from the outside of this vegetation. Back in here where I'm going to put a little honey lure holder back in here. Okay, I want to show you that right here. Got an old trap bed here still. I kind of dug it out real quick. And we're going to take a, this is kind of sandy soil here, so I probably won't be able to, I'll be able to add in more wax dirt here. I can see this is some of my old stuff around here. We'll take a disposable stake or a earth anchor, or in this case can be a wolf fang, and we'll get a trap set here. Yeah. Eric, we've had a couple of kind of screw ups with audio and stuff. We're going to redo it here. Just disregard that last 30 seconds or so. I had to come back and redo a set here. Total mess ups. I don't even know where we're at, to tell you the truth. Okay, rolling. Okay, we came over here about 15-20 feet, and I picked a place to put in a recessed setback type set. The natural vegetation leaves a little cove here, a place where I just kind of dug out real quick. We'll do a little better job here. I'm just going to show you where the set will be here in a minute. This natural line of vegetation and then this other heavy vegetation here, places they won't step, dictates where the trap is going to be. My lure holder or my T-bone, in this case it's just going to be a little honey lure holder I'm going to use here. I'll show you that later here in a minute. This is just showing you how far back the trap is actually going to be once we get rolling. We'll dig out this trap bed, show you some different variations here, ways to really make this set more appealing. But this is the kind of stuff I'm looking for, a place with a bare spot in front, vegetation there we can utilize naturally, and here once again, not to repeat myself over and over, but a way to put a focal point or a smell or both back into something and utilize that natural spot that they're going to be no problem standing that actual nice flat level approach for them to work. We're going to start here. We're going to get an earth anchor, use a wolf fang probably here. This is pretty light soil here, very sandy. And I know elsewhere in the video I talk about pretty much using rebar, but it took us a couple years to get enough footage to show different things on this DVD that we have. I've used some more and more wolf fangs, more and more disposables. I'm still a rebar guy too, but we'll start using a disposable stake right here, and we'll go from there and finish the set off.